The Torah then begins discussing the laws of tsaras, a skin discoloration, often inaccurately translated as leprosy, which renders a person ritually impure. As we said, there are several causes to tsaras. The main one is gossip. Others include avodah zarah, the practice of idolatry, and other kinds of immorality. This aliyah discusses various forms of white skin discolorations. A person who has the symptoms of tsaras must be seen by a priest, by a Kohen. The verse very clearly requires that the Kohen specifically be the one to adjudicate and pronounce the person to be impure or pure. That final stamp of one way or the other has to come through or from the Kohen specifically. The Talmud, however, tells us about scenarios where, at least in a particular generation or even in a particular town, a particular time, there wasn't a Kohen who was very well versed in the laws or certainly in the practical definitions of tsaras. It's not, in this case, it's not just learning the laws. You have to know what you're looking at. It's almost like the difference between knowing the rules of the road and being able to be a good driver. And so there was, in fact, a system very often in place where the most informed and the most experienced expert on tsaras was not a Kohen at all. He could have been an Israelite, he could have been a Levite, but not a Kohen. And he would go with the Kohen to look at the house or the clothes or the person, and he would tell the Kohen, look, this is tsaras, or this is not tsaras. And then the Kohen, according to this man's direction, would say pure or impure. So the simple question is, why do we need the middleman? Why not just go to the source? If it happens to be that a Kohen is the one who knows these laws and has the experience, and he's the one that needs to see the patient, as it were, that he should pronounce whether he's pure or impure, that's fine. But in the scenario where it's not the Kohen who really is understanding the scenario and understanding the symptoms, and he's not the one who's really the expert in the field, why should the Kohen be there at all? Have the guy who knows what he's talking about say whether this person is pure or impure. The simple answer is that the verse requires it. The real question is, why does the verse require it? The classification or adjudication of someone as a mitzeira, someone who has tsaras, this leprosy kind of, not really, but the person who has this disease, is to pronounce him as an instigator of strife, whether it's physical, practical strife through gossip, or spiritual strife through idolatry. That cannot be taken lightly. And not only can it not be taken lightly, it cannot be taken just to the extent of, look, I'm looking at the guy's skin, or I'm looking at the guy's house, or I'm looking at the guy's garment, and this is what tsaras looks like. Sorry, you have tsaras. That's too matter of fact. That's too cold and too analytical to be good enough for this kind of an adjudication. That's where the case starts. Obviously, there are laws about everything, in this case, tsaras for a reason. There are all sorts of different descriptions and all sorts of different kind of things that the person's eye has to get used to if he's going to be an expert in the field, that's for sure. But above and beyond that, there has to be the consideration of what this will be as an implication to this particular individual. And that kind of sensitivity is specifically given to the Kohen. Kohanim are always a descendant of Aaron, Moses' brother. Aaron is known to have been a lover of peace, a pursuer of peace, to make peace amongst fellows who are fighting, or husband and wife who are fighting. And so, again, above and beyond the actual analysis of the situation and the dry kind of bottom line, the Kohen, with that additional sensitivity, has to be the one to really take the responsibility of pronouncing this person to be a leper. If the discoloration is deemed suspicious, the priest will immediately declare the individual impure or quarantine him for up to 2 weeks, depending on the scenario.